Welcome to Manifest This, Believer versus Skeptic. I'm Sharon, your resident skeptic who asks all the tough questions. And with me is Jennifer Neal, our manifesting maestro. Whether you're rolling your eyes or raising your vibration, we dive into all things manifestation, mindset, and energy from every side. Hit subscribe, settle in, and get ready for spirited debates, surprising experiments, and laughter on the journey to creating a life you love. Today, we're going to talk about the new year and the vibration of a new year. We're going to talk about renewal and our identity shifts and all of those aligned intentions that come along with the vibration of a new year. So, Jennifer, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays.
Holidays and all that stuff. So, tell me more about what we're talking about today.
Well, we're talking about the new year, and this is not a new topic by any stretch, but I think what we have the opportunity to talk about is it's energetic. The new year is energetically unique because it's the only time of year where the collective is simultaneously thinking about possibility. Billions of people around the world are pausing and asking, what do I want to be? What do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? And that global intention creates a massive frequency surge.
Or maybe everyone is just a little hungover and a little bit sentimental.
Ha ha. Ha ha. That too. But that's actually an interesting point. Maybe it's because we're at a bit of a physical low from the partying. Sometimes the greatest things happen when we're at a bit of a low. So, but energetically, moments of collective attention, meaning everybody's attention is on the same thing, whether it's positive or negative, create portals. So, think about it. Birthdays have frequencies, weddings have frequencies, funerals have a frequency. And the new year has a frequency of becoming.
Okay, so I'll give you this. There is something psychological, I think, about turning the page. That whole, clean slate, New Year's resolutions, all that stuff is really quite powerful thinking.
Well, exactly. But it's also energetic and psychologically. This is where energetic and psychological often overlap. The new year magnifies the desire to shift, right? It's there. Everybody wants to make a shift, but
Right.
most people approach it backwards. They start with the action instead of the identity. So, for example, I'm going to join the gym, but I haven't changed who I want to become first. And that's where real change happens.
Okay, it's sort of like the, new year, new me kind of philosophy. People love saying it, but we both know it rarely happens. And sort of this is how gyms enjoy, ongoing charging that credit card because you're there, great guns for the first month, and then everything peters off.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, because it's a slogan. It's not a frequency, right? So people drag their old identity into this new timeline and they say, I'm going to be more disciplined. I'm going to work out. I'm going to get organized. But internally, they still identify as I'm inconsistent. I'm overwhelmed. I'm someone who quits. And you can't manifest from the identity that you're actually trying to escape. Does that make sense?
Okay, this is really interesting. So, really, what you're saying is the problem is our emotional blueprint that we're bringing with us.
Yes, because before anything actually sticks, you need an energetic shift, not a motivational surge, right? Motivation burns out. We all know that. Let me ask you a question. When during the day are you most powerful, have the strongest will, and have the greatest ability to make change? What time of the day?
Okay, I'm a morning person. So, I jump out of bed and that's where I'm up and at 'em. That's where I work my best, think my best, am the clearest.
Me too. And most people are. If you notice, diets are really easy at 6 a.m., but as you approach 6 p.m., you're nibbling, right? You lose your
Right.
willpower. So motivation burns out, but frequency stabilizes.
Okay, so what's the difference between motivation and frequency?
Okay. The difference between momentum versus motivation is what we're talking about. Motivation is external. It's loud. It's hype. Energetic momentum is internal. It's who you are being. It's who you're becoming. Motivation says, I should do this. I should go there. I should say this. But momentum says, I am.
Okay, so we're getting back to sort of already being who and how you want to be. So you're basically talking about the law of assumption.
Exactly. So the law of assumption version of a goal setting exercise is this. I have to assume the identity of the version of me that is already becoming who already has the outcome, right? So for example, if I want to be, there's that verb to be again. I am to be. If I want to be healthy, what does the identity of a healthy person do? They go to the gym. So I have to assume the identity of the healthy person before I take on going to the gym, right? So I'm trying to become the person that is healthy. I have to step into the frequency of someone that is healthy. Does that make sense?
Well, it kind of reminds me of that phrase, dress for the job you want.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. So practically, how does someone do that? Because people can't just snap their fingers and identify as a marathon runner or a millionaire or a healed person.
Well, people actually can, but it's hard, right? So
Okay.
I will give it to you, like 99% of the population can't instantly do that, but they can start with micro identity shifts. Okay. So ask yourself, what version of me who already has this outcome, like I have the body of a supermodel, let's just say, what does that person I identify as a she, what does she believe about herself? What does that version of me believe about herself? And then you adopt one of those beliefs today. That is energetic momentum. Tiny little repeated shifts in frequency. For example, let's just say I had the body of a supermodel. What would I think of myself? What would I believe about myself? I would believe that I look great in anything that I put on this model-esque body. So that means today, when I look in the mirror, I need to go, you are banging, Jennifer. You look amazing, right? And it's delusion. It's all delusion. But you've got to act as if the assumption has already been fulfilled.
Okay, so then it's less about the resolution that we're making at the beginning of the year, and it's more about it resonating with you every single day and every single thought.
Exactly.
Okay, so one of the things I saw you in the notes that we make when we have our little chats, there was something on closing your energetic tabs. So I kind of can visualize this on my computer, but I need you to explain it a little better because I mean, I love the concept, but sort of give me an idea of what this means.
Okay. So you're bang on. Like, think about your computer. You know how when you're on your computer, if you have like 47 tabs open, everything slows down, like me on the regular, or even in your phone, if you've got too many apps open in your phone, it burns your battery down faster.
Right.
Same with your energy.
Okay.
So before you step into a new year, do you need to close what we're talking about, our emotional tabs that are draining your bandwidth, right?
Okay. Okay. Can you give me some examples of what an emotional tab actually is?
For sure. So let's think about some of these things, and these might sound familiar. Maybe it's a conversation that you're avoiding, or resentment that you're keeping and you're feeding, or a project that you're postponing, or an appointment with a doctor that you're putting off, or maybe it's an identity that you've outgrown, but you still keep performing in that. I did a post on my TikTok a little while ago about the parts we play in Christmas. We act out in roles. Maybe you've outgrown that.
Well, that's good timing actually, because we just did our Christmas podcast about outgrowing those performances that we do. Maybe part of
Totally.
this space between Christmas and New Year's is looking at what we actually did during that time and figure out what part of it we have out.
Yeah. And I'll give you an example. Like, I know I always play the part of the fixer. So regardless of what's going on in my life, I'm always feeling like I need to be the one to go back and fix the problem, even if it's not my problem to solve. And
Right.
this year, recently, like yesterday, I decided, Jennifer, who do you think you are? You can't fix this. Back off, right? So that's a big one. Couple others that you can look out for is Is there clutter in your physical spaces and environment that you're just avoiding and pretending not to see? All of this affects your energy. And maybe there are some obligations that you've just outgrown. Like I always host the Christmas brunch, or I always let the family come over. For example, we had a huge meal yesterday with the family, and she's invited everybody to come back today for leftovers. Maybe she feels that role. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating. Believe me, I'm looking forward to the leftovers personally. But maybe she feels she doesn't want to do that anymore because she's exhausted. Like
Yeah.
maybe we have outgrown some obligations that just steal our energy for places that we could be putting it for bigger benefit for ourselves.
I'm kind of liking this, the clutter you pretend not to see. Now, I'm a very tidy person, but I will admit that, I have stuff in my closet, for example, that I haven't worn and have no need for. And, just last week, I finally started pulling stuff out and handed it off to someone who I knew could really use it. And that feels refreshing. And it feels like I'm cleaning slate there.
Totally. I mean, Marie Kondo wrote a book and then started a whole movement around what that decluttering actually means. And, it's just like yoga. One of my favorite yoga teachers is Yoga with Adrienne. It's free. It's on YouTube. I highly recommend her. And she has this tiny little phrase and she says in yoga, we are creating space for new things to grow. And if you don't clear out the clutter, how can you bring in the things that you really say you want in your life?
Right.
Right?
Okay, so what does closing all these tabs look like? Because there's no way between now and January 1st you're going to be able to solve it all.
Well, you could. You totally could. I mean, I personally am in a huge clean up the clutter time in my life. And that doesn't just mean, too many socks in my sock drawer. The closing doesn't mean solving or fixing. It means deciding. And listen, there are people I know, that's the toughest thing you could ever ask them to do is make a decision.
Right.
It's deciding, I'm done carrying this. I don't want to host that anymore. I'm done being available for this. I am done letting this define me. So an energetic closure is a choice. It's not a task.
Okay, that's really interesting. I think that's probably something people can do. So, if we're going to do that, tell us how we might be able to let go of that old identity.
Listen, this is identity work is hard, come at it every day kind of work. But the new year is the perfect moment to release identities that feel tight or feel outdated. So start with this. Start with these three little questions. What part of me has expired? Number two, what role did I outgrow this year? Number three, what beliefs stopped being true, but I'm still living like it is? That's a big one.
Are you just living your story and that story is whatever you perceive it to have been your entire life?
Yeah, totally.
So I think for a lot of people, identity is really deeply rooted. It is our story, and often people just cling to it. So,
Totally, they do.
how do you deal with that?
Well, listen, identity feels safe even when it's painful, right? It's the devil you know. For 56 years, I think 56 years, we talked about this yesterday. Can't remember how old I am. For 56 years, I've known this person, this identity that I've carried around with me, but we can change that. But if you don't let the old identity dissolve, you can't land a new one. You can't bring the 2020 version of Jennifer into a 2025 timeline. You just can't.
So, letting go seems to be what, like an energetic detox.
Exactly. Otherwise, if you don't detox that energy, you're going to start the new year carrying an emotional carry on bag stuffed with versions of you that you no longer want to be.
Okay.
Right?
I'm a traveler, so I
Right.
like to travel light. And what I'm hearing you say is travel light on an airplane and travel light through life. So don't
Yeah. Like,
overpack whoever you think you are.
totally. Totally. And you know what? It's really, it doesn't have to be so heavy also. Like, okay, no problem. Like I said earlier, I'm the fixer. So I get in there and I start fixing, right? And I'm
Yeah,
just like, you know what? And I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna let God solve that problem. I got
right.
enough really fun things on my desk I want to deal with and be and do and have. I'm gonna let God solve that problem.
Right. Okay. So, you know me, I like to know the practical side of things. So, how do we actually set these aligned intentions?
So aligned intentions are different than resolutions. Okay. A resolution says, what do I want to accomplish? What do I want to do? What do I want to uh, get, finish? What's the goal? The aligned intention says, what do I want to feel this year? Because the feeling reveals the frequency.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is instead of the accomplishment of I want to be at the gym 3 days a week, the intention is I want to feel healthy and strong this year.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
So, yeah,
So how do you prevent this from becoming like vague? People need action,
they totally do. And the action will come, but you set what's called an identity intention. All right. So, for example, I choose to feel grounded. So then ask, what does someone grounded do? And you let that guide your actions. If someone's grounded, for example, they're not flying off the handle all the time. If
right?
somebody's grounded, they're not getting their feelings hurt all the time. They're not oversensitive all the time. If they're grounded, they know, there's a knowing, right? Here's another example. I choose to feel wealthy. So, what does someone wealthy believe about money? What does she spend on? What does she no longer tolerate? Identity then determines the behavior, not the other way around. Okay.
So it sounds to me like what you're doing is reverse engineering your year through who you want to be, not what you want to achieve.
Totally. Like, who do I want to be in this moment? So,
Right.
yes, the achievement is the side effect of the alignment. And I'll give you another example. And I just did a post on this as well about what I noticed when I sat in business class on my flight from Toronto to Calgary. There wasn't a lot of designer labels and bling in that section. What there was a lot of calm and surety and knowing and groundedness. So, are they grounded because they're wealthy? No, they're wealthy because they're grounded.
Okay. So here's my skeptic's point. Does any of this
Okay,
matter if someone lacks discipline? Because intention without follow through, you're just kind of vibing and you're not getting any results.
totally. Discipline matters, but the aligned discipline is effortless. Well, I'm going to say it's kind of effortless, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Like, for example, back in July, I decided that this is how I wanted to spend my life, talking about this content, putting it out to the world on a daily basis, hoping that somebody else might get some benefit from it, right? Same thing with our podcast, Sharon, right? And I really want to be doing that for the rest of my life. But
Right.
let me tell you, sometimes putting posts out on Facebook scares the living daylights out of me, right? But if I want to be that outcome, the discipline matters, right? But aligned discipline is easier because when I say to myself, oh God, I really don't want to put that post out on Facebook, I say to myself, Jennifer, who do you want to be? And
Right.
then I go, you're right. And I have a little chat with myself, the two people. I say, you're right. And I put it out. So when you're in the frequency of the identity that you are becoming, that you want to be, the I am, discipline stops being such a force and it becomes more of a preference, which is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to prefer to do that because of what I want to be.
Okay. Can you give us another perspective or explanation on that?
So let's come at it this way. If your intention is to become someone who honors her body, right? It becomes your preference to move it. If your intention is to become someone who turns or who runs a successful business, for example, it becomes your preference to show up. Like I just talked about, I want this to be my business, so I decide to show up.
Right.
Discipline becomes identity driven, not willpower driven. There's a big difference.
Okay. So you're saying that willpower fails because it's not aligned with your identity.
Totally.
Okay. All right. So
Okay.
let's talk about how we're going to step into this new year cleaner. Yeah.
So, folks, as we step into a new year, remember this: you don't manifest your resolutions, you manifest your resonance.
Okay. So then, and maybe instead of trying to become a new person overnight, focus on becoming a slightly truer version of yourself every single day.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So, yes, like I know these words like identity and frequency and momentum. I know I had to look them up. I know they're kind of, we don't know what they mean, but let the momentum build, let the frequency lead, and let the identity emerge, but just stay true to the what you want to be.
Brilliant. Okay, that's a great way for us to end the year of 2025. It's been amazing, Jennifer, as we started this, our very first podcast, and we're rolling over 1,000 listeners. We thank each and every one of you. We want to wish you a very, very happy new year. And may this be the year you stop forcing and start aligning.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody. And I think on our next episode, watch out for it. We're going to run you through a workshop, tiny little workshop on how to be in 2026.
Exciting and fun. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Manifest This, Believer versus Skeptic. If you enjoyed today's conversation, share it with a friend, believer or skeptic. And don't forget to leave us a review so others can join in the debate. Plus, check out Jennifer's TikTok account, Manifestation RX, where she writes daily prescriptions for manifesting your dreams. Think practical tips with a dash of magic. We love hearing your questions and stories, so tell us what you're manifesting or questioning this week. Until next time, keep an open mind and maybe manifest a little magic.